What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. It's DJ, Buck, and a very happy Rhett. I don't know why he's smiling so much. He's fired up right now.
Glad to be here, guys.
Just loving
Glad
life.
to be here. Excited. Got to hang out with Bucky on Sunday for NFL Game Day Live. Kind of rekindled our.
For me. Yeah.
Remember, we used to have the old Move the Sticks team on Game Day Live. For a little while.
Didn't get the complimentary pizza that we used to get on that show. I just had to sit up in here and
oh man,
snacks.
They used to bring up DJs, man. That was big. That was big.
Yeah, well, I think because Lionel is no longer with us to bring the pizzas out as the stage manager,
and he slipped one time.
Famously. Those pizzas took a tumble, and that was unfortunate. We love you, Lionel, if you're listening.
That was a great effort, but it was tough. We're going to get into these games. We always pull out 8 games. We dig into those a little deeper, and then we'll have some comments on some of the other ones at the end. It was it was a short night here. I can't complain because I've got Rhett who's going back and forth to Indiana and doing Big Ten games every single week. A lot of travel there. I've got Buck who's done 2 international trips where he decided that he needed to come home in between those. So I'm not going to complain about the early AM arrival after the afternoon game in Kansas City, but it was a long day, not only from a travel standpoint, but what a long day for the Chargers. They lose 31-17 to the Chiefs. The rare 2-score game for the Chargers. You don't see many of those. Those are like Bigfoot. It usually comes down to the very end. It's like a 3-point game.
What's going on out there?
Yeah, it was weird. But again, it was really a 1-score game down to the very end until a punt return by the Chiefs by Mecole Hardman put them in position to make it a 2-score game late. But there's a lot to get to with this. I will look at it. I'll look at it from the Chargers side of things. And I'll start just kind of the tale of 2 halves, man. You had an offense that was up and down the field in the first half, feeling good about it, and the defense was terrible. In the second half, you had a defense that made some pretty obvious adjustments that needed to be made, i.e. playing some man coverage. Yeah, and giving Derwin James a chance to match up with Travis Kelce. And then so the defense gets better, then offense can't move the ball. They had favorable field position off of some defensive stops, could not do anything with it. So just kind of a unconnected game. But I want to talk about the defense. And Buck, I want to get to you on this one. I'm trying to look at this thing and try and make sense of it. And one of the things that's frustrating calling the Charger games every week is I feel like, man, they get hit with the right hand a lot. Like when you're going to play the Miami Dolphins, your attention probably should be on Tyreek Hill and trying to take him away. He goes over 200 yards. When you're playing, the Dallas Cowboys, you let CeeDee Lamb get loose. Micah Parsons is where you should focus your attention. Like, hey, anybody else beats us, but Micah Parsons has the 2 big rushes at the end of the game that end up sealing the game. Max Crosby, even in a win, I think had 2 sacks against him. Justin Jefferson goes for 150 yards, including big plays. Like, I feel like if you go into that game yesterday, and Sky Moore has 130 yards and he beat you. He beat you. You live with that. Yeah. But to come out and play so much zone coverage, to come out and give free access to Kelce, and then I freeze the picture. I sent you guys some of the screen grabs. When you freeze it on 3rd down, which is when he should be getting attention every down he's on the field, but on 3rd down, there's nobody within 10 yards of him in the middle of the field. He's running spot routes. There's no magic to it. He just runs spot routes. There's nobody assigned to him. And I just think, man, after a game, you get on the plane and fly home, Buck, and you go, you know what, man, hey, last year in a game, Derwin James matched up with him. He beat him and got a touchdown late, and I would sleep fine. You know what? We put our best on their best. He got us. But to just give free access, that doesn't make any sense to me.
It's funny, right? So we're in the midst of this period where everyone is kind of taking shots at Bill Belichick. But the one thing that we all respect about Belichick is his ability to make the opponent play left-handed. And we've seen him use basically the punt return coverage where he'll vice up a marquee player to make sure that, hey, this guy's not in play. He's done it in critical downs. He's the master of double coverage tactics. He will not, if he can control it, he's not going to allow your best player to have a big day. And a lot of coaches are reluctant to kind of sell out or kind of revamp what they normally do to take that player away. And I understand, like, hey, we're just going to do what we do and how that's been successful for some. But against the Kansas City Chiefs, to me, this year in particular, when Travis Kelce is the main event, gosh, you got to let MVS or somebody else beat you. You can't let him not only have 12 catches, but he can't go over 100 yards in the first half. Like, it has to be something where you're trying to take away something to make them uncomfortable. Make them go farther down the play sheet. Don't let them just stop it at segment A. Make them at least get to B or C.
Let me ask you this quick follow-up. Why would you not just play 2-man against that team and say and challenge Andy Reid to be patient with Isaiah Pacheco and say, if they want Pacheco to run the ball 30 times, then we'll take our chances. We're going to play 2-man, and we're just going to say, okay, that's because that is like, Buck, just from a 7-on-7 culture standpoint, like that's the best. If you're playing a team that's going to throw the ball, that's the best coverage you can run.
I mean, you can do it. You can do it all day. Like, and I look.
But it's simple. It's simple too.
It's simple. There's no hesitation. There's no thinking. I've got him. I've got help. That's it. I've got him. I've got help. That's it.
It should be very, very simple, and it should be a thing that you do. And I remember Todd Bowles said this when they knocked him off in the Super Bowl. He said, if Pat Mahomes runs for 100 yards, we'll live with it. But they're not going to beat us because he runs for 100 yards, because that's not what they want to do. We're not going to give up the explosives. We're going to take away their main options, and that's what they did. And look, the Chargers had the game there for them because the game was even Steven, but you cannot allow Travis Kelce to go big because no one else is capable of really having a monster day. Let somebody else have a monster day.
Well, and I will just say, because you guys covered it. I mean, that's, it seems odd, right? But that it also feels like that's part of the philosophy here with the way that Brandon Staley wants to do things defensively, right? It was like, okay, well, we're not going to completely change what we do based on one guy. What we do works, and we're going to work it and, have a plan and work the plan, right? But I will say, it did force Brittany Mahomes and Travis Kelce's significant other now, you might know her name, to adjust their new celebratory handshake. Like they had to, because of the way that Kelce was working in the first half, they had to come up with a new adjustment on the handshake because they were executing it so many times. So they were able to adjust in the first half with the celebrations, which meant that things were probably going pretty well for number 87 in red. I mean, it's just incredible the way that they're able to continue to find, that chemistry. I'm trying to think back. Like, if we go back to Brady Gronk, is Mahomes Kelce better?
It's different. It's different. It's totally different.
I think it's different. I would say the difference is, at first glance, there's more freestyle and more, I would say,
they color outside the lines and
improvisation.
That's true.
I felt like Gronk was great, but I felt like it was planned, it was scripted how he got, like with Kansas City. I think the part of the problem in dealing with them is you just never know where Travis Kelce is going to go, because I don't even know if his quarterback knows. But
he says it all the time.
Yeah.
So you're right.
Gronk was different though. Gronk was contested catches and run after catch. Like you could not physically get him on the ground. There's all the plays of guys bouncing off of him as he just kind of rumbling down the field, bodies hanging on him like that. Kelce is going to work in zones and space. He's going to separate at the top of his route. He's going to get what he gets, but like he's not going to run guys over. And then in the run game, it's not even.
It's not even close. I just meant on chemistry with quarterback and tight end. That's all.
Oh, they have unbelievable chemistry. There was a next-gen stat that they had completed like 29 straight balls. When targeted, Mahomes had completed 29 straight to Kelce. Think about how crazy that is. It had the probability of like 0.03% of that happening. Like that's how stupid it was. And I do want to say one thing as we move on here. The Chiefs defense is one of the best versions of that defense that I've seen. And they've had Super Bowl defenses. One of the things that they do that I love, like you watch a guy like L'Jarius Sneed, Buck, they get their hands on people every snap. Like they don't give free access in a league where so much of the passing game is rhythm and timing based. It seems like it's not that, complicated, that it helps when you can get your hands on guys and reroute them just a little bit. Now they still give up some explosives down the field because Chargers have players, but they don't make it easy on you defensively.
So it's funny, DJ, you talk about that. It's one of the things that drives me crazy. Like you see guys just playing off and just conceding yards and just giving them. And I don't know, I'll say this, like I'm a believer that you need to make receivers work for every yard they get. Like most guys, if you challenge them early and they go these long stretches without touching the ball, they'll kind of check out and pout, and they'll turn on the quarterback. So I believe you should do what the Kansas City Chiefs do. Hey, man, make them earn it. Touch them every time. It's annoying. It's almost like when we play basketball, you play in the YMCA, and there's this one guy who's going to be the defensive guy, right? So you're off in the corner, not really in the play, but his chest is on you. And you're like, dude, like, can I get some room? But it's that guy, and it's the guy who has no talent. Sometimes you need to treat wide receivers like that, like make them always kind of feel you, because like it's annoying. It's an annoying process.
100%. 100%. By the way, do you know how many contested targets that the Kansas City Chiefs had in this game? 2.
Ooh.
2.
Yeah. Bet they weren't. But most of them weren't from Kelce.
I know. But I mean, like you talk about challenging people. They had 2 contested targets.
So unbelievable.
So Patrick Mahomes, but he only threw it 42 times. So just that. Not great. All right, let's get to the next one here. We're gonna go back a few days here on this one. We don't need to linger long on this one, Buck.
No,
I know it's a few days old, but your game, Jags, Saints, and man, the Jags, you guys are positioned in a great spot right now.
Yeah. So here's the game. The game. It's not even really about the result. I think the big thing that came out of the game was Trevor Lawrence's willingness to play. Trevor Lawrence, the last game against the Indianapolis Colts, at the very end of the game, he runs a bootleg. He hurts his knee. He's braced up, and it's a short week. So I see him leaving with his wife on Sunday, and he's kind of gimping out, had a big old brace on. And I was like, well, that's not good considering they play on a Thursday. And Doug Peterson said, I didn't know if he's going to play. I don't know if he's going to play. I watched him in pregame. And DJ, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm watching him throw, and it's not great, right? So he's trying to make these throws. The first ones are just fluttering all over the place. He then settles down, and he has the A team that he's working in. It's big time when in pregame is Calvin Ridley, Evan Ingram, Christian Kirk running routes an hour and a half before the game. And I was like, oh, yeah, they're really trying to see if he can throw. DJ, early in the game, he just takes off running. And the whole time I'm like, get down. And it's like a big run and those things. But what that did, he earned more points in the locker room than you ever can imagine because of his toughness. And there's something to be said for, look, Phillip Rivers always played. Eli Manning always played.
And they were beloved.
Beloved. When you're the franchise quarterback, you have to show up. And there's something about like when you display that level of toughness that ingratiates you to the team. And because of that, I think the affinity that his teammates have for him, the respect that the coaches have for him, grew leaps and bounds because of his willingness to play and how he played in spite of that stuff. And so one of the things that we talk about in evaluation is toughness with quarterbacks. That exhibition of toughness goes a long way in that locker room.
No, that's big. I think it's a great point. Rhett, on the Saints side of things, I felt terrible for Foster Moreau at the end of that one.
God, he's such a good guy. I mean, obviously went through, what he went through overcoming, cancer this past off season, and he's an LSU guy, and wants to do great down there, and it's just, what I appreciated was Alvin Kamara and Juwan Johnson going to pick him up after the game, and you love seeing that stuff, and I think that tells you something about where the Saints are in terms of the locker room, and obviously in the face of more struggle than they have faced in their entire careers, really, in these last 2 years, and certainly in this start to the season. So, it tells you that they've got some guys that they can kind of rally around and hopefully, find a way. I mean, look, in the end, Derek Carr throwing it 55 times in this game is, again, probably not what you want. But yeah, you got an opportunity there, game time touchdown, and they had their chances. They have not been able to take advantage of opportunities the way they need to.
No doubt. I do want to correct one error from earlier. There was 4 contested targets in the.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
I had it sorted with just Kelce, so I just want to make. I don't want to over exaggerate here. So.
Can I bring this up because you guys you have the quarterback and DJ, I got the wide receiver and Rhett. I just want to know, Rhett. I ask you this.
Yes, sir.
When Derek Carr is your quarterback and he's making these theatrics and gestures for the world to know that maybe
very demonstrative
that you might have blown a route. Like, how do you feel about that when you come to the sideline? Because I don't think you as a wide receiver are reacting like that when he overthrows a guy. He throws his 30th check down on the day. It just seems like a lot for an organization that's had Drew Brees, the consummate leader. The dome has seen Drew Brees and how he conducts himself. And then here we have Derek Carr 6-7 games in. And it's really a big show, particularly when you're down on the sideline. On the opposite sideline, you can see it. And I'm like, this is not going to play well.
Yeah.
It's not going to play well with the fan base.
Here's the one thing I'll say is generally, when you screwed up, right? And so, like, unless like you are vehemently in disagreement with Derek Carr and his assessment of what you were supposed to do on that play, like you, to a certain extent, like it's like, yeah, you know what, I screwed that up. I screwed that up. Maybe I deserve it, but yeah, you'd still like to not see it. I mean, remember we were dissecting this like crazy at the end of Tom Brady's career too, where he was, end of his Patriots run, I should say, where he was getting some major frustration with some of his wide receivers, and he'd let you know, and but he's the greatest to ever play the game. I think that there's probably a little bit of frustration there on both sides, and I think that's where, as you mentioned, it could cause some issues here, because I don't think Derek's been flawless. So, and while he's been okay, I don't think it's been enough to say that I am above that type of criticism on the other side. So, and he said it after the game. I'll give him some credit. He's got to chill out a little bit. He's got to chill out a little bit. But they got problems. I mean, they got real issues on offense, Deej.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm on that one. To me, in between the lines is when it's that was what drive me crazy. If you saw it, and I'm just talking about my measly little career, I'm just talking about just being around it. When I would see receivers, when Buck, when they start jumping up and down and skipping and like shaking their hands, that like, come on, like,
I'm open.
You want to be like, dude, do you have any idea how hard it is to play this position back here with all this going on right here? Like, I'm gonna miss you sometimes. Like, we'll talk about it. We get over to the sideline if you want to come over, and if you want to give me some stern words about how pissed off you are that you were open and I missed you, then that's fine. But on the field of play, I don't like it. To me, that's where I kind of draw the distinction. And then on the quarterback side of things, that's just what comes with the position. I say the quarterback and the head coach, I'd lump them together. I thought when we were talking about the Giants game a couple weeks ago against the Bills, when Dayball, when Tyrod Taylor, ran the play and checked to a run and they don't get any points at the end of the half, he sprints out onto the field and he's airing him out. And so it's like the whole world can see, like, dude, we all know that Tyrod Taylor screwed up. Yeah. We all know that. He knows that. You know that. The whole stadium, everybody watching, you don't have to air him out. You're going to get bonus points for protecting him and then have that conversation in the locker room. And I feel like quarterback's the same way. Hey, you ran the wrong route. I threw a pick. I'm just going to walk off the field. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to show you up, and I'll take that bullet. And what it's going to do, it's going to build my credibility with the team.
Yeah. Good point. It's just annoying to watch.
But Buck, it's that rule that we've said. It's the rule that we've always said, which is it's very simple. When it's right, it's we. When it's wrong, it's me. That's the rule of playing quarterback. That's it. Rhett, how about this was a game, by the way, this Browns Colts game. I'm in the press box for the Chiefs game, Chiefs Chargers game. It was one of those ones where like I'm not exaggerating. It was a double take. Like I looked at the scoreboard and I was like, what? Like at the halftime score of this game, I was like, how the heck is Gardner Minshew and the Colts? How are they scoring this many points against the Browns?
Great question. And I think you start looking at it. I mean, look, Gardner Minshew is a good player. Now he's got some turnovers, obviously, that he wants to have back in this game. 4 of them, to be exact. 1 of them through the air, and then the 3 fumbles. But that brings us to the real point of this whole discussion here. We can talk about the points and all that stuff, but I mean, Myles Garrett is just a superhuman. Like there's just no other way around it. Like I spent my morning like Googling superheroes, and I'm like, you know what? None of these guys are as good as Myles Garrett. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like he's the Hulk, he's the Flash, he's like the Silver Surfer, Iron Man, whatever you want to call him. Like he's all of it into one. Nobody does. There are so few humans on this planet that can do what he did on that field goal block at his size. And then obviously, the speed and the power that he's got off the edge to create that turnover in the end zone. I mean, those were game-changing plays, and those are plays that you got to have when you're playing a quarterback, who didn't start the game and had made just one start for your team before that. and obviously, isn't, one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league. So, I mean, like, the dude just takes it and puts it all on his shoulders. And Jim Schwartz, I mean, credit again to what they do defensively to set him up for success. But he beats double teams routinely. I mean, like, it's almost like, what else? Shane Steichen is like, what else do you want me to do? I feel like, the fact that he passes Reggie White for the most sacks by a player before turning 28 years old, I think just kind of makes you sit back for a second and go like, okay, let's appreciate fully what we're seeing here. You know what I mean?
No question. Buck, what's your take? I know you see the Colts inside that division, follow that team. That they're that competitive in that game. I know they don't win. There's no moral victories, but to me, when you lose Richardson for the year and you've got Gardner Minshew out there, and Rhett talked about you get some of the good, but you're going to get the turnovers through all that. I mean, it's a 1-point game.
Yeah, no, really scrappy team. And I think we talked about it. Like, this is a team that is going all in on the prototypes, at the position. They were the ones that took all the guys with the testing numbers and the height, weight, size, speed, and all that. And so this is a team that plays fast, and they've been put in a scheme where we kind of talked about, if you take great athletes and you have a collection of teachers on your coaching staff, what could it look like? And that's kind of what we're seeing. The Colts are showing you, hey, if you have great teachers and you take the best athletes that are available in the draft, you might be able to put together a good team if you have the right teachers that are willing to put them on the field, because they play much better than you would think their roster was suggested they play based on the experience and what they have. To me, it's a credit of the coaching staff and the scouting department being on the same page. And I think the future is bright in Indianapolis when they continue to add more pieces to the puzzle.
Yeah, nice to see Josh Downs go 5 for $125 and a touchdown. So
nobody took him in the rookie draft.
I know.
Come on, what are we doing?
It would have been nice if he was still at Chapel Hill. That's what I would say. How about that?
Gosh, that's a tough one for you guys. Man. Look, Rhett and I we can't say anything without the way our team.
But it would be nice. It would be nice if he was in Chapel Hill doing it.
Freaking the Who's. Gotcha. Is that what they call themselves, by the way?
I think they do.
Yeah, Wahoo,
Wahoos, Cavs,
like
whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Anyways, tough one for the Tar Heels. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We come back. We'll talk about the big Sunday night matchup between the Dolphins and the Eagles right after this. All right, this was probably the game of the week. Not probably. This was the game of the week.
Sure.
One that I got to see the first half on watching it on my phone on the bus on the way to the airport, and then just saw the score at the end of the game, and then was excited to get up this morning and watch the tape, watch L22 and see what happened in this game. And I the first thing I did is I popped on the Dolphins offense, because when you look at it, when they only have 17 points and 7 came via the defense, you're like, okay, 10 points. This is the most explosive, the most dynamic offense in the league. Like, did the Eagles, what'd they do? How'd they shut this thing down? And I'll start with the positives for the Dolphins. Don't panic. If you're a Dolphins fan, they're fine. They had so many snaps on the other side of the 50. I mean, they had so many opportunities, and then they exhaust on downs on 1 on a 4th and 3. They aren't able to convert. You have the pick, towards the end of the game in the red zone. They had a touchdown called back. They had what would have been a touchdown to Tyreek Hill. He somehow bobbles. I mean, he kind of almost kneed the ball out of his own hands on running into the end zone. Like, there was a lot of opportunity for them in this game, and some of it was definitely self-inflicted. Now, the Eagles did a nice job of what we've talked about in the past. When you play this team, if you can get your linebackers to get back there and get depth, which was nice to see. I thought, watching back the tape of this game, Nakobe Dean was the first time I kind of got excited about seeing him and what he was doing, running around, which was great to see. But they're going to play. They're going to try and get after you up front, and they forced some big penalties. So it wasn't just they had 3 sacks, I believe, in this game. It was nice to see the first sack of Nolan Smith's career. He was unblocked, but got his first sack.
Yeah,
but Sweat was really active. That Jalen Carter, drew a penalty. Like, they were able to get them off schedule with some penalties that showed you the impact of their front. Their defense played well. That being said, there were still ops for Miami in this game, and I think my biggest takeaway was not what I anticipated. I thought I was going to watch it and come away saying, "Man, the Eagles, they dominated them defensively," and I came away saying, "You know what? The Eagles played well enough," and I thought the Miami Dolphins left a little meat on the bone.
I mean, I would go there. I would say, here's the thing. We talked about these teams being built very, very similar on the podcast in terms of like how they've been constructed, the way they've done it. I would say that the Eagles' depth has certainly helped them because they can just bring so many different waves. I would also say that the Eagles are a much faster team than I anticipated because some of the trickery that the Dolphins have utilized to create big plays, they were minimal games.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a team that is basically running a version of the wing tee with all the spinner series, the packages, they're coming one way, coming around.
Yeah.
And they really try and get you out of sorts, but the Eagles are able to run them down and meet them at the line of scrimmage. And so for a team that really specializes in running in the C gap, which is like the gap between the tackle and the tight end, they want to run outside. Eagles' speed and explosiveness really showed up to me when I looked at this game.
Yeah, and that's where, depth depth along the defensive front, where you got those guys and you've got multiple dudes that you can keep rolling in there. I also think that we've talked about this kind of the last couple of weeks, but for Miami, their depth along the offensive line has been challenged in the last couple of weeks, with Teron Armstead kind of being in and out, and he's going to be out for a few weeks. And Connor Williams, was a big loss for them at center. I think even Eichenberg ended up with a couple of pre-snaps penalties on there that affected them. And look, I don't know how natural of a center he really is, but Connor Williams has been a really good player for them. So I think a little bit of a confluence of events there. You meet, you're less than full strength on your offensive front. And then you meet a defensive group that is as deep and talented and fast and physical as you're probably going to see this season. And that's basically what happened. 45 rushing yards. I mean, that has become such a big piece, right? It's not just a flash and dash of Tyreek Hill. By the way, missed a couple of opportunities himself, as you were talking about, Deej. But yeah, I think when they can't get some of that run game stuff going, this offense kind of struggles a little bit.
Yeah, one of the things I was thinking from the Eagles side of things, AJ Brown has another huge game, 10 for $137 and a touchdown. Goddard got in the end zone, had a nice day. He's having a really good year. Jalen Hurts, guys, is so rugged and so tough. He's beat up in this game. He still manages to make the plays he needs to make. Gets 279 yards, a couple passing touchdowns. There's an interception. There's some other throws I know he'd like to have back. They did the sneak thing a zillion times. He had 11 carries for 21 yards. So, I mean, it's just kind of a rugged day, including a touchdown. And that the takeaway that I had, though, from their side of things is maybe the player that holds the keys to who's going to come out of the NFC is going to be Marcus Mariota. Because I know his knees hurt. I don't know if Jalen plays this week. Maybe he's fine. Maybe he's able to get through this injury. But the way that he's used, he's going to miss some games. So, whether that's 1 game, 2 games, 4, I don't know, but that you can't, I don't care how strong he is. I know he's incredibly tough. He's incredibly strong. How rugged he plays, Buck, he's not going to be there for 17 weeks this year. He's going to miss some time. And when you think about how even the 49ers and the Eagles are, and we know this is a collision course that we are headed towards.
Yep.
If it's a 3-game sample size with Marcus Mariota, he could hold the keys of who has home field advantage in the NFC. I really, that was my takeaway watching this game.
Yeah, and then watching the game, because Jalen did come out with the second half, he had the knee brace on. He didn't really talk about it in the post-game interview. He kind of just, everyone's dealing with stuff.
Be fine.
But you just you wonder, okay, if this is an injury, is it best to sit him now, let him get fully healthy? Or are you going to try and let him grind it out and then potentially lose him when it matters down the stretch?
I mean,
you got to be careful.
I'm looking at this, Bucky, and just to chime in here briefly. Next 2 games, Commanders and Cowboys. So 2 division games. Then you got the bye week, week 10. And then how about this 5-game stretch, really? Chiefs, Bills, 49ers, Cowboys, Seahawks coming out of the bye for Philly.
It almost seems like, Red, if you're going to make the move, this is the time.
Ahead of the bye and then attack the bye on the end of it.
Yeah, because you think, hey, we should be able to get with the Commanders without him. Hey, even if we drop one to the Cowboys now, we should be able to get them on the back end. We have the bye. That'll give you almost 4 full weeks for him to get right and to be available for that stretch run, depending on
I'm not trying to pick on anybody here, but I mean, does what we saw from Marcus Mariota in the preseason make you feel really comfortable about it?
But that's why I'm saying that's why I think it's so key.
Yeah.
I have my doubts for sure. This is not, when Gardner Minshew was in that spot, you felt okay about it. I don't feel great about Marcus Mariota, but I would say that they, this team has kind of a grit and a toughness that's where the defense will crank it up a notch and they'll run the ball.
There's at least a competency there. Yeah,
and I think Bucky's point, you can navigate these next games with that after the bye with that slate that you just. I don't think you want to navigate those games with Mariota.
I don't, and you need him. You need him as close to full strength as you can get for that run. And so if you can sit him down and get him back healthy after the bye, you should do it, because that's where you're really going to need him. If you can go 1-1 coming out of this stretch, look, you're not going to fall back much, if at all. And if you're the Eagles, you probably think you can win both of them if you get it done.
And if you drop one of these now, Buck, well, you've got the head-to-head with the Niners. So if you have Jalen healthy and you go win that game, now that's good. That's like winning 2. Yeah. So that would be big. The beatdown of the week, by the way, holy moly, was your game here, Buck. That was the Ravens just beating the stuffing out of the Lions.
You know what? I feel like this was a message to me, because I've been sitting here talking about this offense with Monken. I went on TV a week and some change ago. Oh, Red, were you there that day? I was talking about them playing volleyball. Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes, it was Thursday night. Yeah, Thursday night they had 7 drops. I was like, oh, I didn't know that the Ravens had a volleyball team where they're just knocking everything down.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, this offense shows up, and Lamar Jackson looks like MVP Lamar Jackson. The way they're throwing it, the way he's running around, the offense is clicking.
357.
Like, this was not on my bingo. This was not on my bingo card. Yeah. And I will say this, as much as everyone's going to talk about the offense, I think we might have been sleeping on the defense. I think
agreed.
Third game. Yeah, third game where they've held teams to 10 points or fewer. I think I saw this on the graphic, like they've only given up 7 offensive touchdowns. Is that true? That can't be true. That can't be true, like the way that they're playing. But they're playing really good on defense. And that defense with this offense that has the potential to explode, man, it puts the Ravens right back in their conversations, one of the teams that you don't want to talk about in the tournament.
Great point. And I think it was nice to see and to see the kind of the full complement of Lamar Jackson's targets kind of show up. Now, obviously, Zay Flowers has been arguably their most consistent piece as a rookie these first couple of weeks, but kind of reintroduce yourself to the fact that Mark Andrews can be a game wrecker. Rashad Bateman made some catches in this game. They got Gus Edwards rolling a little bit. And so it all felt like it was working, and they jumped on Detroit from the jump, and that's obviously key, especially at home, and a team like that, in Detroit, you got to get up early. You don't want to find yourself down. And so I thought Lamar played, this is the best game we've seen him play in, 2 years.
Do we see, by the way, in that game where you had a young, exciting offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, is it time that maybe Mike McDonald gets some love, as Buck was talking about this Ravens defense and how well they're playing? As you start getting to the midway point, you start seeing some of these lists come out with future head coaches. Yeah. And he did a nice job at Michigan for Jim Harbaugh. Then, he's bounced back and forth with John with the Ravens. He's been excellent, man. He's a young guy who obviously is really, really smart. So in a league where we see all the offensive guys getting the leg up, I wouldn't sleep on him as being a head coaching candidate here in this next cycle.
Yeah.
Rhett, what do you got here? What's your next game?
I believe we're going.
Pats Bills.
Patriots Bills. Yeah. So I'll tackle this initially from the Patriots side of thing. There was an efficiency and effectiveness to this offense for New England that we have not seen this year. I thought early on, man, it was just Mac Jones was on target. And they were working the ball, to a variety of different Pop Douglas was getting the ball quickly and letting him kind of use that athleticism. Let him go to work. Farrell Brown find some chunk plays from the tight end spot in the pass game. There was a balance. Mac didn't throw it 45 times. Completed 25 of 30 in this game. And even though the run game wasn't particularly productive, they stuck with it for the most part, achieved some balance. But maybe the biggest part about it is the offensive line combo worked. Arguably for the first time this season. Now, look, they've been missing Cole Strange for the last 3 games. He comes back into the lineup. That then allows Michael Wenu to move over to right tackle, where they had just been getting beat handily on that right tackle spot, and he kind of settles that down. They allow 0 sacks and just 2 quarterback hits, and arguably their lowest pressure percentage of the season this week against the Bills defense, Would have been one of the best in pressuring the quarterback all year. That, to me, is the absolute key to this game. Mac Jones, when given a second, is good enough to win games in this league. And I think he's proven that time and time again, and he's been under constant duress the last month or so. And so the fact that he was able to breathe for a second and then deliver some throws, I mean, that was big. And it wasn't like an overly explosive offensive output, but they made plays when they had to, made enough, especially down there late in the game with the Gesicki touchdown. So that part was really good.
I don't even know, Buck, if I'm, but Rhett's excited about the Patriots because they looked so much better than they've looked. My emotion coming out of that game is what the heck is wrong with the Buffalo Bills? They're an up and down roller coaster team.
They lack DJ and Bucky. They lack so much. I don't know the creativity is the word. They lack so much in terms of consistency and rhythm on offense. It is like, man, I mean, like I can feel the frustration, like watching the game. And, Josh Allen, it feels like that offense is so boom or bust, man. And he might throw 3 picks and, you still feel confident in their ability to come back and win the game. But I don't know I don't know if they're still struggling to find the right identity with Ken Dorsey as the play caller. But man, they have not truly found the rhythm. I mean, they are just such a out of sync at times offense, it feels like.
Yeah, it's very clunky when you watch them. There's no real rhyme or reason. I think the main thing, you don't know what their identity is, right? So when we think about the Miami Dolphins, we have a clear picture of what their offensive identity is. It's about speed. It's about getting to the perimeter. It's about explosive plays, shots. You think about the Philadelphia Eagles, it's about the run game, complemented with a vertical passing game to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. But for the Buffalo Bills, it's Josh Allen as a one-man show. And I don't know how that fares against some of these other top teams in the AFC. We've talked about the AFC being loaded from top to bottom. I don't know if you can just have, hey, Josh, we're going to roll the ball out. We're going to let you do your thing, and we're going to figure out a way to score 30 points. I don't know if that's an effective strategy against the teams that are in the AFC. If the Bills were in the NFC, sure, write them in, they could do it. But in the AFC, it's going to take more structure, more organization offensively for them to be able to get past some of these top teams.
Yeah, it's interesting just looking at, I was pulling up his numbers because I was curious on Josh. His completion percentage is up 7% over last year. His yards per attempt is, almost identical. 7.6 last year, 7.5 this year. Last year was 35 touchdowns, 14 picks. This year, 15-7. So that ratio is a little bit off. But if you buy into ratings, I mean, his rating and his QBR are both up over last year. His rating right now is the highest of his career, which seems crazy. It just seems crazy because you watch it and it does feel disjointed.
Great way to put it.
But on paper, when you look at it, it's like he's having his best year. It's hard to wrap my mind around because I was thinking the point I was going to make was, man, I feel like this young group of superstars, when you look at Burrow and some of the adversity he's faced this year, Herbert has been down a little bit. It hasn't been as easy of a ride for him. Josh Allen's been down a little bit. Even, until this last week, Mahomes, with the otherworldly standards he had set for himself, wasn't quite what he had been. I think we're seeing these young guys get challenged a little bit.
Yeah, we are seeing them get challenged. And it's just not what you expected. We thought this team would be ready to go. Now, firmly, I believe that they were going to be on the decent. I didn't think they would stay up there, but I'm just surprised at the struggles that we're seeing from the squad.
All right, Buck. How about Falcons and Bucks here in a game? I'm going to be honest. On the road and traveling, until I looked down at the paper, I didn't even know who won the game. I did not.
Oh, you weren't excited about the Dirty Birds taking on?
Look, battle for first place in the NFC South.
I just like to be honest with the listeners. I don't want to fake it. I didn't see any of this game.
The king of the South. I mean,
so tell me, as if I didn't know. Pretend like I didn't know. Oh wait.
Okay. Okay. So this is Arthur Smith and his sideline antics, and we've seen him basically look like he has Malox or Pepto-Bismol or whatever. Like he has it at his side when he's watching his quarterback Desmond
injected
Ritter
into
play.
his veins.
And I think he probably doubled up. I think he was double fisted on the sideline with Pepto because Desmond Ritter, DJ, 3 fumbles.
He lost 3 fumbles, huh?
In the red zone.
In the red zone. on going into the end zone, being careless with the ball, quarterback sneaks, like those things where this game should have been, look, they should have comfortably won this game. But because of those miscues and errors, it didn't happen the way that it should have happened. Now, it's great that he made a play to help him get down, hit Kyle Pitts on like a strike to put him in field goal range. But his carelessness with the football is going to drive Arthur Smith to engage in some adult beverages or some vices that he doesn't need to handle, because he's driving my fellow Tar Heel crazy with this turnover.
Yeah.
First team to lose 3 red zone fumbles in a game in 20 years.
Holy crap.
I mean,
that's why we've
said
said
in the red zone.
So again, I'm just not talking about this game specifically, but that's why when we get to the offseason, we want to fast forward to the topics of conversation. The Kirk Cousins to the Atlanta Falcons has been the move the sticks move that we have all three endorsed and put our stamp on, that's the move that should happen. That team's ready to go, man. They got a good group. They're ready to go right now.
Yeah, and Bijan barely even played, by the way.
What happened?
He was sick.
It said something. He had headaches. He had headaches the night before, and then it bled into the next morning. And so he couldn't give you a good day's work.
I'll tell you this, man. I'm in a fantasy football league that I've played in since I was in high school. And this is the worst fantasy football team I've ever had in my entire life. And I took Bijan. I took Bijan with like the 3rd pick. I'm like, he's going to lead the league in rushing. He's a freak. And then I looked at the box score and I was like, wait, what? What happened?
Yeah. He didn't play.
Hasn't been great for my squad, by the way. Of course, I didn't play George Pickens the 1 week that he goes off too. So whatever.
Yeah.
Team stinks.
Right.
Enough about my fantasy team. Anything on the Bucs side of things before we move on to this next game?
I don't particularly think.
You don't want to talk about the Bucs?
Yeah.
I mean,
you guys are both taking the.
It wasn't the story of the game. It just wasn't the story of the game.
The story of the game was the Falcons allowing the Buccaneers to hang around.
And the Bucs don't have the Bucs don't have a run game. Like, we talked a lot, and you want to talk about fantasy, and the fantasy community talked forever this offseason about Rashad White.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He caught some passes, and that still gets points, but I mean, they're not running the football. And look, they really didn't a ton while Tom was there either, but it kind of shows up, it feels like, a little bit more now.
Yeah, interesting. All right, last one on the Big 8 here. Let's go. Rhett, you had the Steelers and the Rams, a big win on the road for the Steelers, who, by the way, I feel like we talked about how physical their camp was before the season started. We talked about how this team, like, there's a toughness and a grittiness to them, and then they get their doors blown off by the 49ers, and we're like, oh, maybe we just missed the boat on that. And it's like, no, it's not aesthetically pleasing, but once again, they just find a way to win games.
Yeah, you want to talk about not aesthetically pleasing. That's spending 2 hours on your commute home after that Rams-Steelers game from SoFi yesterday.
Oh, gosh, that's tough.
A
lot of Steeler fans in the
fans.
Freeway. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So this game was kind of interesting, right? I mean, obviously the Rams running back room was injury depleted. Kyron Williams out, Rivers out. So they called up, everybody from the practice squad. Royce Freeman, Darrell Henderson, the old friend, comes back.
Gotten a Wayback Machine.
Yeah, I know. And it still found some productivity there. And I think, all of us that were worried about Puka Nakua's production with Cooper Kupp came back. Turns out it just probably helps a little bit, to have Cooper in there. I mean, and Bucky and I were talking about it on Game Day Live. I mean, I don't know if there's a team that executes the in cuts at all levels of the defense better than the Rams do, with the way that Stafford can sling it and the way that Puka and Cooper find openings down the field in that area. So that was big. But this really comes down to the fourth quarter for me, really the third and fourth quarter with the Steelers. Third quarter, because TJ Watt picks off Matthew Stafford, sets up the Steelers offense. They punch it into the end zone. They're back. Like, they're starting to get that momentum. And then in the fourth quarter, I thought is really where this thing kind of came to play. The Steelers ran 23 plays in the fourth quarter. 16 of them were runs. 11 first downs in the fourth. It's like they remembered who they were for a second. You know what I mean? It was Najee Harris. It was Warren. Like, they were all, I mean, they got into the game. Like, almost all of their rushing yardage for the game comes in the fourth quarter. Like, Dwayne Washington was in there making some big plays as the, quote unquote, sixth offensive lineman, but as another tight end there. Kenny was flawless. Kenny Pickett in the fourth quarter. He went 7 for 7, had a big time back shoulder throw to George Pickens. Throw of the game on a 3rd and 3. Like, Isaac Somalo peels off to try to help the left tackle as they put Aaron Donald out rushing out wide on the left tackle, and he's about to take care of Pickett. But Somalo tries to come over there, ends up body checking Pickett. Somehow he still gets this ball off, and it goes right into the hands of Pickens on a 3rd and 3 on the final drive that allowed them to essentially kind of run the deal out. And maybe the biggest thing and the biggest difference here is that they had the Matt Canada camera up there in the booth, and he was actually had something to celebrate. Like, it was not the misery cam. Like, he was actually up there. It's like, let's go. It was like feeling it. And like, I just felt like they had a rhythm. They had a commitment to the run game in that fourth quarter. And maybe, just maybe, Bucky, it's something for them to build on.
Real quick though, Buck, is Dwayne Washington related to Darnell Washington?
Darnell, sorry.
Yeah,
that's my bad. I got my Washington screwed up, didn't I?
We went on such a soliloquy. I was
Could
ready
have been
to
DeAndre
land.
Washington.
I was ready to. I had that punch loaded and ready to go, and I had to sit there and hold it for a while to be able to get that thing in there. But I got it.
Sorry, Darnell. My bad, bud.
That's okay. We
I think Dwayne Washington played for the Steelers, though, right?
I think maybe
the receiver.
Dwayne Washington. No, Dwayne Washington.
Corner.
Cornerback. He was drafted by the Vikings.
There's been a couple. Okay.
Yeah. Nice. Go ahead, Buck. Sorry about that.
Look, this is what we talk about with the Steelers, man. They just find a way to get to the winner's circle. It's never pretty. It's just effective. As much as people hate Matt Canada, he just somehow finds a way to draw up enough plays for them to score enough points to win games, and he'll continue to be there. Probably be there 20 years from now as the OC. We'll still be talking about it, but that's how it goes. The big thing was George Pickens being a factor. George Pickens kind of showing up and making some plays and finally getting to thing. Like Deontay Johnson also being there. I mean, they got guys. Allen Robinson made a big catch. I mean, they have enough guys. It's just a matter of organizing the play sheet where those guys can touch it. They just haven't done it. So we'll see if they can get it together down the stretch. But this team is going to be there. They're going to be in the conversation.
They're the cockroach. They're the cockroach of the AFC North. Like, we'll talk about one week, the Ravens are the best team. And then it's like, the Browns have this all-time defense. And it's like, the Bengals, they'll get it going. They'll get Burrow. He'll be back healthy, get it rolling. And it's like, Steelers, you're not killing the Steelers. They're going to be there. And whoever else is at the party, we'll see. But you can write it in ink that the Steelers will be there at the end. They'll still
Darnell's going to be be there, boys.
That's right.
Be there.
That's right. Darnell, Dwayne, whatever. It's all the same.
All the same. Starts with a D.
How about if I was going to go headline, and I'll go back and forth with you guys. We'll go kind of rapid fire here. But just the headline takeaway from these other ones. Buck, the Raiders and the Bears. The Bears smashed the Raiders 30-12. What's the headline?
Why start Brian Hoyer? I just don't know. Why? Because this was a situation where I understood, like, the previous week, Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt second half. You put Brian Hoyer in because he's the guy that's probably most ready to play without reps. But then you had a full week to prepare. Aiden O'Connell should be in the starting quarterback. We have seen what this Brian Hoyer thing looks like. It doesn't look great. And it didn't look great against the Chicago Bears. And this is one where if you're a Raiders fan, you're looking at Josh McDaniels wondering, like, man, like, let's put the young guy in. Let's give him a chance. And it also, look, you went and got Jimmy G. This had to be part of the equation when you got Jimmy G. He's not a guy that's a 17-game starter. He's a 12 to 13-game starter, and you need to have a good quarterback too. And I thought Aiden O'Connell would be the guy to get the ball.
Well, and we talked about it on the show, Buck, but, I think Brian Hoyer excels at being QB2, at coming in, as you mentioned, with 0 reps and being able to effectively lead the offense the way he did a week ago. But as is the case with many backup quarterbacks, you start exposing them to more reps in a role like this against the Bears. And sometimes that's when you see why that they are QB2.
Well, is that the line, by the way? You remember when we were in high school or whatever, and the line was good from far, but far from good?
Well, I don't know.
Is that kind of Brian Hoyer right there?
Like good with few with, I don't know, something. Yeah, you know what I mean. But here's the other thing, the other takeaway on that one real quick. Why does everyone want to throw D'Onta Foreman out onto the trash heap after 1 year? I mean, like, he's been on 3 teams in 3 years, it feels like, and every time he gets the ball, he's like a 100-yard rusher. He had 3 touchdowns in this game. Why is he not playing for the Panthers right now where he was a year ago? I mean, like, he should still be in Tennessee. I don't know.
That Panthers roster of, 18 months ago looks a lot better than that Panthers roster does right now. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, they play a lot different too.
What else we got?
All right, next one here. Let's go, Rhett. You can hit this one because you're the official Giants watcher of the podcast. 14-7. Yay! They beat the Commanders.
You know that they got some run game productivity from Saquon Barkley, and I think the biggest takeaway is that they found Darren Waller. They remembered Darren Waller is there and is one of the best tight ends in the league. He goes for 798 and a touchdown, and that was essentially all they needed. Defense played well in the game.
There you go. And by the way, I thought the other piece of information that came out of this was it looks like they are going to get their left tackle back for next week's game against the Jets, which is going to be 13-10, and it's going to be a slugfest. Battle of New York. They're looking forward to that one. All right, Buck. The Cardinals, they're competitive, but the Seahawks get them 20-10. Jake Bobo with a touchdown.
Let's go, Jake.
And Jigbo with a touchdown. How about the two rookies?
Yeah, two rookies stepping up. I thought what was interesting about Bobo is how DK Metcalf has talked about he looked at Jake Bobo as inspiration in terms of how to work and how to prepare to play in the National Football League. He talked about how Bobo has been one of the guys that, from a route running standpoint, he's been impressed with. And so he watches how he's been able to work himself into being a pro and how he's earned everything. He's tried to take on some of that. I just think with the Seattle Seahawks, they're young guys stepping up and playing. You didn't get a chance to see it, but Devin Witherspoon absolutely splattered somebody in the flat. I mean, just absolutely like
who it was didn't matter.
Yeah,
it was Rondale Moore, I think. Yeah,
I mean, just cut him down 2 inches. I mean, just destroyed him. And the Seahawks didn't play great, but they ran the ball effectively. Kenneth Walker had over 100 yards. Geno was fine. The wide receivers continue to make plays, but this is a team that they're not good enough in my mind to be one of those top seeds, one of those top 4 seeds in the NFC. But they could be a little problem in the tournament.
Yeah, they can win a game. They could win a game in the tournament. I mean, I don't know. That's interesting. All right, the last one here, Buck, you can handle this. Packers, Broncos. I felt like, I don't know, refresh my memory. I feel like you were pro Packer early on in the year and thinking they're not going to skip a beat. And I feel the same way about their situation.
I was, but you know what I'm going to do? Because our humble producer, Nabil, I'm going to do like Nabil. I changed my mind. I don't feel as great about them. I don't feel as great about them after watching them. It was a lot more in theory, more so than in practical application. Look, I thought this team was going to be able to run the football with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, and they just don't play big boy ball. And the fact that, look, somehow the Broncos allowed them to close the gap. The Broncos dominated the game for the most part. I mean, they were in control of the game, and they let the Packers sneak back in. This Packer team, and we're learning, and this is what I was curious. I wanted to see what Matt LaFleur looked like without having the 4-time MVP Aaron Rodgers, and it looked like what I thought it would look like. He has to figure out how to get this team with what he has to play at a higher level, and they're just not playing well enough in terms of on defense and in the running game to be able to do it with Jordan Love at quarterback.
They got to get their offensive line fixed. It's become an issue. Josh Myers got hurt in this game. We know Bakhtiari's what he's been dealing with. It's not what they have going up there up front right now is not conducive to the way that they want to play this game.
Interesting. By the way, quick kid story. When my youngest son was playing soccer for the first year, so I don't know, 5-6 years old, they're have their first game, and the coaches got the team together, and so they've got the goalie jersey, right? And I go, hey, who wants to play goalie? You know, and none of the kids raised their hand. I'm just watching this whole thing, and my son's first time playing soccer. He raised his hand. Yeah, I'll play goalie. Put the jersey on, trots back out there, gets in front of the goal. All the other team comes on the field. They blow the whistle to start the game, and he raises his hand from the goalie box, goes, I changed my mind. Didn't
want it. They didn't want that smoke at goalie.
It sounded like, hey, I get a cool jersey. This is going to be fun. And I think that 5-6-year-old brain started thinking, man, they're going to start peppering some of these soccer balls at me. I don't like this. I don't like this very much. Get me out of here.
Yeah.
The best though was raising his hand, because it was proper. It was very professional. It was very respectful, just very polite. Hey, I changed my mind. We're good. No, I'll get somebody else in here. By the way, you can't. He was not able to do that at the start of the game. So I'm the dad who runs behind the net, and I'm gonna try and encourage him and coach him. The referee, no coaching behind the net. You can't. I'm like, These kids are 5-6 years old. Like, come on, man. Anyways, he made it. He lived. He's still with us. So he's
Good.
That's funny.
Is that classic?
I love that.
All right. Remind you guys, we're going to be back with 4 more episodes this week, including a Move the Sticks video show that streams 4 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday on the NFL Fast channel. So again, 5 pods a week, 5 shows a week, including that video show. If you haven't done it already, we encourage you to subscribe, leave us a rating and review. We do appreciate those. It's been a fun one, boys. Let's do it again tomorrow. Sound good?
Sound great.
All right. We'll see you guys next time right here on Move the Sticks.